Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. Today, I want to tell you something so important. I'm coaching so many women. I have to just, as a side note, tell you guys that Gumball Love is reaching new levels, and I have to stop and go, wow, this concept is really evolving, and the transformations that are happening. I'm actually working with some people to help me find the systems to help track like how many people have gone through the academy and what their transformations are and what their milestones are. Because I want you to know, like if you work with me, I'm really focused on making sure that this happens for you. And man, I just sit here, just was doing this now, just sitting here with my morning coffee, going, wow, look what this has become. I was just saying to God, like, man, what a life you've given me, and how far this has come from sitting in my 2-bedroom condo in Nebraska with my yellow sticky notes all over my walls, which are about to go back up all over my living room walls in my office here in New York City, because I am remapping out this entire process and this transformation that happens when you are in a relationship with a gumball guy. You try to get over him. You go through the breakup. You go through the divorce. You know, there's all these things that happen, and I'm obsessed about watching that. In fact, I held off on launching a July academy because we have a group of women that are inside. They are academy graduates, and they became members, so they decided to stay with the monthly membership, which just basically means like it continues the academy process. So you check in, you have a group coaching every single week. So you just think like you're going through something, you check in every week, and you're like, okay, I'm able to see the women that are on the same page as me, and it also keeps you accountable. You know, it's like a workout program. If you check in with the trainer, it kind of keeps you a little bit more on track. Like, oh, I would like to eat that dessert, but I'm going to see my trainer in 2 days, and you know what I mean? It just gives that extra layer. So that's what it's really designed to do. But as your coach and as your teacher, I'm watching the process, and also where people feel like they should be making more progress than they are, and where we start to beat ourselves up. And so I just wanted to address you, whether you join the academy or not, whether you do private coaching. I don't know where you are. I always like to know like what's going on with you, though. You can just shoot me a message and I will totally understand. You can be like, hey, listen to your podcast. I am in a relationship and I'm stuck, or I am feeling like I'm never going to find a guy again, so I haven't had a date in 4 years, or whatever. Like it's helpful for me to know where you are, because you just never know when I'm going to turn around and make a podcast on that topic. Because sometimes you'll just message me one thing and I'm like, ooh, I have a whole like library of thoughts on that topic. So, but I want to get back to when we feel like we should be farther along. Like some people, I think they want to join the academy, but then there's this thought like, but I'm over here and everybody else is probably ahead of me. And I'm like, no, this is the group where you don't feel like you're ahead. It's like where you feel like this is the I'm stuck group. This is the I need to get over him group. This is a crap I text him again group. Like, you know what I mean? It's the place where all of that is okay. You know what I mean? I created this group so you could have a place that you know, like when you're going through a Gumball guy situation, it's kind of embarrassing to go to your same friends and because you feel like they're like, oh my God, really, dude? You're still talking to this guy. What is wrong with you? Why can't you see that he's bad for you? And we get the typical responses, you know, like, girl, you're so much better than that. And you deserve better. And you do. And it's all true. And they mean well, but you're like, yeah, but you need to analyze it. As my mom says, you need to land the airplane. I love that analogy because it's like, yep, I know I deserve better, but right now I feel like if I leave, I'm jumping out of the airplane and we're at cruising altitude and I don't have a parachute. It just feels wild. It feels random. Like you're just not ready to do it. And to people that love you and they're looking at the guy and he's treating you bad or he's being emotionally unavailable, they're just like, oh, come on, you know? And that feeling of, oh, come on, it makes you also start to beat yourself up. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just do what they're saying? Why do I feel stuck? And then when you're done with that lunch or you go back to your place or whatever, and then you sit there and then you start beating yourself up. What is wrong with me? Why am I not like other people? Blah, 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 blah. And and then it's like, okay, I'm going to order a pizza and I'm going to have some ice cream and I'm going to sit here and watch a show that takes me away and numbs my pain. And then you start to like feel bad. But I am here to tell you that even when you are with the guy, it's part of the process. There is a process of leaving him when you're with him. That could be a book title. Leaving him when you're with him. Maybe I will make that a book title. If somebody else steals it, well, good for you, because writing a book is a hell of a process. So if you beat me to it, you'll be like, oh, I tried to beat her to it. I didn't realize this was the most agonizing, excruciating process of my life. I have written the manuscript for Gumball Love, and it completely needs to be redone. And it's like the idea of rewriting it, it's just, it's bad. Like Rachel Luna, who is now my business coach, by the way, if you don't know Rachel Luna, she is one of my favorite people on this earth. I went to her event in Atlanta called Confidence Activated. And you may not have noticed, but lately on social media, I've just been a little quiet publicly because I've been working on systems inside and also just working with a lot of clients. I've had a lot of one-on-ones and working with girls inside the academy, and just we're kind of behind the curtain working on things. And, you know, when you're bringing things to the next level, sometimes, you know, you just can't put your energy everywhere. So that's what we've been doing. And I went to her event and joined her masterclass. And we're going to be doing her mastermind. We could call it masterclass, I guess. And so I did post on Instagram, though, that I'm doing this for you because I have to push this to the next level so that I can help you, that I can serve you, that we can create different types of products, different books, whatever. I'm really on in the creative space of how to help you in the best way. And I don't foresee me letting go of the academy anytime soon because it is the space that I always wanted to have for women. That the space first came with just the public or the generic private Facebook group, like the Gumball Love VIP private Facebook group. You can join that. Okay. So if you're in that group, I still feel like a lot of people do post their personal stuff, screenshots of text messages, whatever. But then it's like, do you really want to talk about your personal relationship, your actual, you know, dirty details in that kind of a forum where there's, you know, hundreds of people in there? And I think a lot of people, which have told me, you know, they hold back. They have private lives they want to have kept private. So the academy is, you know, like, and I didn't even mean for this to be, I'm not trying to make this a commercial for the academy. I'm really trying to help you understand what this platform is designed to do so that you know what you're following and you know the process that I would love for everyone to go through the academy. Why? Because it's the whole course, everything that I've created for Gumball Love. When you see Instagram posts, those are just one-liners from a deep library of content of what creates the Gumball guy, what is motivating him, what are the intricacies behind this. So when you get the academy and you hear all of that content, and then we work together one-on-one, because you get a one-on-one coaching session included with the academy, or you can get 1 or 3 sessions depending on the package you choose, or you can get more if you want. Some people buy 6 because they're going through something major, like a divorce, or they're like, I have a girl right now, she's on like her 4th session, and she's making a huge decision. So each conversation we make progress, but she's not ready to cut those ties yet, but she's building strength in the process. So sometimes you do need those extra sessions. And I want you to really think about, should I invest in this for myself? Because if I don't invest, what does that mean? Or even if you invest in a therapist, if you feel like a therapist can help you, because had I not done this for myself, I wouldn't be living my dream life. I'm literally living my dream life. I'm living my dream life to the point where I'm like, I have that fear, like, oh my gosh, what if something happened and it got taken away? I think of like, what if I had to move? What if I had to do this? And it's like, oh my gosh, I just know I'd be so unhappy doing anything else but this. If I won the lottery, I would do this. For real. If I won the lottery, I would do this, but I would just travel more. I would hire more people. I would just make it bigger, but I would do exactly this. And that's a really cool feeling, a really amazing place to be. And so I can't remember why I was saying that, but because investing in yourself and really deciding this platform I'm also really drilling in is for the woman that is still, you might still feel weak about your Gumball guy. You're still stuck. However, there is a seed that is sitting there inside of you going, I'm like wiggling my foot under my desk right now, because it's like that feeling of, I'm with this guy. I love him. The idea of not being with him or trying to get over him is excruciating, but I know I'm supposed to be doing something. I know I'm called to more. I know that there is so much more in this life for me. And how much longer am I going to waste on this dude? Like, is he ever going to change? How long? Like, you just get to that point where you're like, I need real answers. I need to really look at this and stop trying to live in some kind of fantasy land. We get to that point where we really want to take it on, even though we feel sad and weak. That's when you come to me. I am not, I can help you with, that's one area you come to me. I also can help you with getting back out there and dating online and filtering guys. Like, that's the other side of it. So I help you get out, and then I help you get back in, because I also don't want you to lose the faith that there are great men out there and you can have so much fun. I was just telling my friend yesterday, she's getting having a very difficult time in her relationship. And I was like, just told her, look, this isn't a representation of men. This is just this one type of guy. But once you heal from this, and this is key, okay? I want you to try to stop what you're doing for a second. Just really listen. If you're multitasking, if you're washing a dish, or you're doing laundry, or you're organizing something, or if you're in your car, don't close your eyes. But if you're in your car, even pull over if you can. I'm being serious. Like, I want you to focus on this for a second. Okay, so I'm imagining your blinkers on, and I'm just kidding. Okay, so if you do not heal and take the time, like, there's this period of time where you leave your guy and there's a fear of being alone. There's a fear of, what if I don't meet somebody? And then in that period of time, there is a temptation to go back out and find somebody else, because we want the validation that we're okay. We want the validation that people that men still want us, that we're still desirable. And if you do not heal that part of you to the point where you no longer need the man to validate you, you will never find, because you'll never find that whole relationship. If you have to commit to becoming whole yourself, and then when you feel whole, you won't have the craving. We have to work together to stop the craving of needing him to tell us we're okay. Do you hear me? So that is a journey, and for some, it's not very long. It doesn't have to be months or years. It could be just a period of weeks. I don't know. But that's what I know we have to heal. And I just listened to, I want to actually do a separate podcast on this interview with Esther Pearl and Jada Pinkett Smith. She had an amazing interview about her relationship with Will Smith. And I'll just give you like the quick version. They haven't cheated on each other, but she said, I was basically dragging my emotional baggage. I'll cut right to the chase. She said, she looked at Will and she said, he is not my father. I cannot make him my dad anymore. Like, this is not his responsibility. I have to work on my stuff. And it really caused huge problems in their relationship. She said it was the most excruciating process to, really, really tested them, where you could tell divorce was definitely a topic. And she also felt like she had to be an energy source for Will Smith. She also felt like she was sort of his muse. And imagine, he's a superstar and he's in all these movies. So she felt this responsibility to be there for him. But that became too much. And she didn't have, ding-to-ding, her own life, her own identity, her own stuff going on. And so not only had she not worked through the stuff with her dad, she felt like she was leaning so much on Will to be that kind of role in her life. Plus, she felt this pressure that she had to be this emotional, I don't want to, obviously you would be emotionally supportive, but she felt like she had to be his everything. And then when she said, I don't want to be all this for you, he was really hurt because they had to recalibrate. Well, what do you mean you don't want to be my, support? And she's like, I just feel like I'm your energy source and I can't be that. And I was thinking, okay, this is why if we're single or we're in a bad relationship we know we need to get out of, this is why it's so important to do this work, because you don't want to try to do this work inside of your next relationship. Because this is one thing that when people are like, Melissa, you're not married. I'm like, yeah, I'm not, because A, I haven't met the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. And B, I am whole and I'm not craving. I do not have the craving for the guy to validate me. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I need to just be with somebody. I don't have that. When family goes, what are you doing? It's like, I'm changing lives, people. I'm helping so many women. It's like, dang, I feel like so proud of the work I've done. And like my sister, she was like, gosh, just think like how many relationships have ended and new relationships have started because you decided to say your message. I'm like, I know. I mean, the one podcast interview I did with Kara Al-Waliba, I can't even tell you how many women broke up with their dude after that podcast. I told Kara, I've texted her, I'm like, I've texted her so many screenshots. I was like, we've caused so many relationships to end. I have to go back and listen to that episode because it was on her podcast. I think it's episode 17. It's like a 2.5 hour episode because she interviews me and then we decide to keep going and talk about her relationship. So it's like a 2-parter that she put all together. But that's when I found the thing that I love to do. So now there's not a craving to fulfill, even like I didn't have children, right? And I thought, everybody thinks like they're going to, get married and have kids. But I always felt drawn to living in a big city and just a different lifestyle. And now that I have that lifestyle, it's like, I can't imagine not being here. This is where I'm supposed to be. Walking the streets of New York, the grit, the glam, all that stuff. And it was in the process of getting here and going through everything that I've gone through that it stopped the craving, not the desire. There's still the desire to have a partner, would love that. But I love that if it's the right person, that I'm building the right friendship, the right foundation, and it will come in due timing. And I just have faith in that. I have total faith. I know God has a plan for me, and he has a plan for Gumball Love. He has a plan for you. And so I used to get hung up on this until I started seeing all the transformations that are happening for you. And once I knew that my relationship status had no impact on my ability to help you get over your guy and get into a new relationship, then I was like, okay, it doesn't matter. The formula works. And that's why I'm obsessed with your milestones and your ability to follow this process. And it almost feels like I've always felt like a chemist in a lab and figuring out the right dosages of potions, etc. And that's where I wanted to weave the message of this is a process. It's not just he's a bad guy, I'm going to get over him and move on. No, it doesn't work that way. And I feel like nobody says that. It's like there's this window of time where, okay, yeah, I'm going through a breakup. And then you just go, well, do I have this period where I walk around like a sad person and eventually, people will say, eventually you'll meet somebody new and then you'll forget about that guy. I don't think that's reality. I think you can meet somebody new. And just in this interview with Jada Pinkett Smith, it's called the Red Table, it's like Red Table Chat or something. I'm going to pull it up on my phone just to make sure I get this right. But they were talking about how several people that they interviewed, they had these little, call-in, people that were calling in, and they were saying like, I have met somebody else, but the rejection from that past relationship is still in my mind. So if we don't heal from that past relationship and we don't allow ourselves to become whole so that we lose the craving of validation and then we start to desire true connection. This is where the Gumball guy only craves validation. He's got an addiction to it, where I believe that the people like you and me, we still want the connection, but because we're not whole, we are susceptible to being attracted to these relationships that offer temporary validation, which is kind of like when people are like, am I a Gumball girl? This is where it's like, well, kind of, because you are accepting temporary validation. You're getting gumballs, but they're not leading to true connection. But you're not able to see that because you're still starving. Does that make sense? If you're starving and a lot of times we are starving from being in a relationship with a Gumball guy for so long and not really getting true connection, that the next relationship, even when it's another Gumball guy, won't seem that way because he looks different, he talks different. Like people will say, I've said it too, like, oh, he's just a totally different kind of guy. Like I have dated such different, completely polar opposite, from like tall to shorter to skinny to stocky to muscular to different, nationalities. I mean, it's like I feel like I had a type, but I really don't. But sometimes when it would be like, oh, well, I went from like this muscular white dude to a skinny Asian guy. And then it's like, no, skinny Asian guy and muscular white dude had the exact same pattern. But when I was dating skinny Asian guy, I thought he was different because like he was quiet, where the stocky muscular guy was really loud and obnoxious. And so, do you know what I mean? Like we can see these personalities and go, oh, he's totally different than the other guy. but we're not whole yet. So I'm getting the same kind of attention from skinny Asian guy. It sounds like a stand-up comedy routine now. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're getting the same sort of attention, but it's just coming from a guy that's packaged completely different. So sometimes we think, oh, he's a quiet guy. Oh, like, I have my Latina girls are like, I'm not dating another Puerto Rican. I'm like, okay, no, all Puerto Rican men are not bad. Like, when there's no nationality that where all of them are Gumball guys. I'm sorry to break. You cannot just write off Puerto Rican men. You cannot write off Russian men. They're not all these people are not the same. We're all human beings. Everyone has a different experience, but we get an experience and then we just write it off because that pain came from a guy that looked like that or acted like that. So it's not the outside that we need to be looking at. It's the behavior patterns, but we can't recognize the behavior patterns unless we are whole. I can't remember who I was explaining this to. It was my girlfriend. We were at lunch on Sunday, and I said, I remember when I was dating, I know that it looked like, have you ever seen like ducks fighting in a pond and they're just like, it's like all this wing flapping and water is splashing everywhere? I believe it's like when you're attracted to a Gumball guy, the Gumball guy is like thrashing everywhere and there's all this commotion. It's really dramatic. And then you're doing the same thing. And in your mind, this is like flirtatious banter. But to other people looking, it looks like a hot mess. Like the calm swans that are swimming around like quietly and just kind of gliding through the water, look over at the flailing and the splashing, and they know they're like the wise swan. Okay. So, but then what happens is when you become whole, you become like the swan. And so imagine you're this sleek swan gliding through the water. When you become whole, so we'll just say the swan represents the whole person. Sorry, my analogies are completely on the fly. But the Gumball guy will start to look like the flailing, splashing, and then it's like, okay, imagine you're the swan and you're squinting your eyes now. It's like, dude, calm down. But he can't because he's in a rush. He's in a panic because he needs that attention. He's not whole. He's saying, feed me, feed me. So I believe that I know for me, when I was going through the pattern of Gumball guys, I was not looking for gumballs, but I was willing to take them because I was starving. And I hoped that Gumball love led to true love, and it doesn't. Had I met somebody that was actually authentic, I think it would be fine. So I think if you could meet somebody that really was connecting with you, you could fall in love and you would be okay. But you're also kind of like, why isn't he splashing? Why isn't he like more exciting? You're looking for the Gumball guy. That's the tough part of this is you're looking for the splashing, thrashing, excitement, drama, because that's what you know. And that's what you're used to getting your fix from because you're starving. So we have to satisfy our hunger and have the goals and the desire to have true connection, but we're not looking urgently. So it's the part where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can delete this app off my phone. And you get that shaky feeling, you're tapping your foot like, I kind of miss having like the idea, just like cutting it off entirely. I don't know, Melissa. That's when you're craving. That's when there's too much urgency around meeting the guy instead of being the swan, being calm, and then being able to just glide through, enjoy life. And then when you see another swan, you're like, hey, what's up? And it's calm. The number one thing you will see in healthy men and women is a sense of calm. The calm comes from the satisfaction in their life. They come to you already satisfied. The hunger has been satiated. So they're not starving when you meet them. And so that's why when I say the guy is a leg humper, he comes to the date and he's already sexual in the first few minutes. It's just imagine, like, I took Charlie to the park and there was a dog named Cheddar, and Cheddar was a major humper. I was like, oh my gosh, every time I turned around, it was like Cheddar was humping Charlie. Charlie's fixed, thank God. But it's like, he was just very excited. And so if a guy approaches you like Cheddar, I was thinking Cheddar with his chub. Cheddar had a chub at the dog park. And he was just, he was just like, every time he saw Charlie, he couldn't play with her. He couldn't focus because he had an urgent need, right? And so when guys have that urgent need, or we have that urgent need, we're not focused on things it's just like when we're hungry. When you wait until you're starving, then you'll eat the whole basket of bread. And you'll ask for more bread before your meal comes. And then by the time your meal comes, you're kind of full, right? Because it's like, oh gosh, now I have to eat that. I ate too much bread. It's sort of what you do when you're out there taking all these temporary fixes because you're rushing the process of trying to meet somebody. Then when a good meal is put in front of you, you don't have the desire for it. You're like, it doesn't really sound that good. But had you kept yourself satisfied through the day, and you had a little snack in your purse, and you didn't let yourself get starving, then if somebody puts in front of you a beautiful spinach salad, and it's got like blueberries and strawberries and some nuts and like some avocado and a great dressing, and you're like, ooh, this is so good. That will look really good to you. And if you eat that, it's a satisfying whole meal. And you're into it because you didn't come starving. So we have to be making sure that we're doing our work so that we don't end up in a marriage. I'm going to post this Red Table chat with Jada Pinkett Smith and Esther Perel. If you don't know Esther Perel, she has very interesting perspective on cheating. And I have a lot of thoughts on it. I'm just going to leave it for another podcast because if I get into it, it'll go too much. But I really did enjoy this interview because it's a huge reminder that if you do not do this work before you meet somebody, that you will not have a fairy tale ending, that the work is still going to need to be done. Finding a guy he's not a therapist. He does not make the daddy issues go away. He does not heal the wounds from the past. Marriage is not a wound healer. So again, you come into the marriage starving. It's like you're going to be constantly needing things that your partner can't give you. So when Jada said to Will, she wasn't actually saying it, but in a sense, they were both responsible for leaning on each other for things that they needed to find themselves. And once they did that, now their marriage is solid because they are standing on their own 2 feet. They became 2 whole people. And now she's able to have her own life and he's able to have his own life. And now they are working on their partnership together. And look, Jada and Will have their situation. It's not a representation of all relationships. However, I think in general, I commend her and him for being able to publicly have this conversation because everyone can understand it and respect it. And it also just shows you can be a superstar, you can have, box office hit movies and still have these struggles. I just saw today Bradley Cooper broke up with his girlfriend and everyone's like, oh my gosh, is he going to get together with Lady Gaga? It's like, well, did he not have the foundation with his girlfriend, which he had a child, so that was there enough hunger there so that when he spent time with Lady Gaga, that he came into that movie making experience with a hunger he hadn't learned to satisfy. So then it feels like, oh, well, now there's this new woman in front of me, and then there's chemistry, and oh my gosh, maybe this can satisfy the hunger that I've always wanted. And so then we go and we partake again, and it's like, I'd be willing to bet that if they get into a relationship, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, it's not going to last, because it was created out of a hunger and a starvation. It wasn't, I'm a whole person, you're a whole person, and now we're coming together. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that they don't have beautiful qualities. Like if you saw the movie A Star Is Born, I mean, you could really see, first of all, it's, we're so fantasy driven. Like it looks like, Lady Gaga is not Allie. Bradley Cooper is not whatever the guy was in the movie. Like, that's not who they are, but you could see the chemistry on the Academy Awards stage, and, people are like, oh my gosh, it's true love. It's like, no, maybe it's two starving people that are getting that high from the fix. But when it comes down to everyday life, is it reality? Is it manageable? Or if they're both put in different situations where there's a new Gumball somewhere else, is that going to be the thing that they think is going to satisfy them? Do you see what I mean? Like, if we don't do the work to become whole, and we don't really figure out what it takes to establish ourselves to where we feel rooted, we feel calm, we're the swan gliding through the water, completely content with our lives. And you'll know when you're content when you're stopping all the time going, man, I'm so grateful, I'm so happy. You look around at your environment that you've created. Like this is what we work on in the academy too. It's like you create your environment, you create the lifestyle. You start thinking about like, what do I want in my life? What is missing? Because we think that it's all going to fill in or something when the dude arrives, but once you really reconcile, like, dang, okay, so this guy does not make it all come together. And I challenge you to ask any married person, did the guy make everything come together? And they'll be like, no. And this is why people say marriages work, because it's hard to put two people together. And I believe that a lot of people that do get married end up doing this work inside their marriage on themselves. And then it's like when you come in with your stuff where you're flailing about and you're splashing and you don't even see it, right? Like a lot of times we don't even see we're doing this stuff. And so when we come in, we try, and if you're lucky enough, you'll find somebody who is willing to work with you and grow with you. Because I also want you to know what I have learned from so many incredible happily married people, as they will say, you have to find somebody who can grow with you. So there isn't a destination of, the swan swimming around still has some issues, but they're not a hot mess and they're not starving. So just because you're not starving and you're satisfied doesn't mean that there's not still things that are going to need to be worked out. Some of our issues, some of our things that we've had in our lives are long-term, traumas, or there's traumas that, yes, like you've been able to calm the feeling of that trauma. Let's say you were abused as a child, or you were raped, or you were beaten by a previous boyfriend, or you were just in a very emotionally abusive relationship where it's going to take some time for you to be able to feel, and maybe in a sense, there will always be some scarring and some damage. But so there's always going to be some things there that we work on. And we all, I'm trying to think of something like, okay, I'll give you an example. Like my whole life growing up, I always felt like what I'm saying doesn't matter. People don't care what I think, and they're making fun of it behind the scenes. Like I always felt like I was being made fun of. So even as an adult, sometimes I still have to talk myself through that. Like, okay, no one's making fun of this. You're not stupid. You're valid. Your feelings are valid. Your emotions are valid. And so sometimes it's much less but it's still something that will come up. And so that's what I mean. Like, none of this is going to be like, okay, now you're a perfect swan. It's like, yeah, the swan still has issues. Okay. It's like not a perfect swan. So I just want to drive that home to you that the whole point of this podcast was to say that this is a process. And I want you to allow yourself the breathing room and know that even though you may have just broken up with him, that you still are going to have a process of getting over him. And that your friends maybe you have a lot of happily married friends, they may not get it. However, I want to empower you by asking them and connecting with them about their relationship. Because sometimes we sit there, like one time, one of my aunts was like, well, how come you haven't found somebody? And I said, oh, did you just think that these kinds of relationships are just like hanging out on the street and I'm just turning them down? Do you not understand how fortunate you are to have the marriage you have, to have the life you have? Do you not understand how rare these kinds of things are? And that I will be so fortunate and blessed to find something like you have. But let me tell you, sweetheart, you hit the jackpot. So you need to feel incredibly blessed. And she was like, whoa, I do feel blessed. I'm like, well, good. And I said, yeah, it would be great. However, I have found a way to live my life to where I'm not starving for a guy to bring me happiness. I've already manifested happiness in my life because I've went through the path to know what does it take. And for me, it takes a relationship with God, a relationship with Jesus. For me, that's my God is Jesus Christ. And without that foundation and rock, that is my rock solid go-to every single day. When I pray, I get answers. That he is the man in my life. And so once I was able to find and be satisfied and allow God to make me whole, then those desires start to go away. And I think sometimes women that feel this way, they're like, I don't really have the desire to date. And it's like, I don't really think any of us should have the desire to date. You have the desire to meet somebody and connect on a deep level, but the process of dating doesn't really interest you. And that's probably good. Like dating it's kind of like if we're dating on the apps, it's like, it's not a life, you don't want to have that lifestyle. But I feel like when women become whole, they're like, well, is it that I just don't want to date? Like, is there something wrong with me? No, this is just part of the process. You don't need to know how to date. Dating is, what is dating? It's like hanging out and getting to know somebody. It's just relationship building. So if we called it, this is my relationship building application. It's like we call it a dating app because so many people are using it to satisfy. They're starving. They should, Tinder is really known for hooking up, right? And some people have found relationships. I'm not saying you're not going to find a relationship on a dating site, but I want you to look at it as like supplemental to your life. Like, yeah, if you meet somebody, great. If you connect with somebody, perfect. A lot of people do. So, but I hope my message is coming through to you that you don't have to. I want you to take away the panic. Relax. You can't rush this. Like it's just a dude. It's just a dude. And you know what? He's working on not being the duck in the pond that's being wild and splashing. He's trying to become his swan self too. And so every guy is in his process. The dudes aren't just swans. There are a lot of hot messes out there too. So when the hot mess meets the hot mess, a lot of times we feel like we have all this hot chemistry and, oh my gosh, she's amazing. We get all excited. And that's why when we're starving, we're like spending all this time together and we're starving again. So we're not doing our laundry. We're starving again. We're not eating right. We're not going to the gym. We're not doing our work. When you're starving, you're constantly over there eating the chips and eating the candy and taking it all in and having a great time. And it all seems like fun. But at the end, it doesn't satisfy you long term. Eventually, it catches up. Eventually, then you're back to, it's just like if you go on a vacation and you know, like, okay, I know I'm overindulging, then you get back from the vacation and there's 10 pounds. It's like, yep, now the reality is you have to put in the consistent work because you let all of the temptations, you gave into all the temptations, and now you have to do the work. So in essence, if we just keep dating and we don't heal, we're never actually doing the real work. And then even if we end up in a marriage, we're going to end up in a marriage that could have cheating going on because we're still starving. And that's where Jada and Will Smith got, where they were tempted to cheat. This is why these celebrities, that's like, oh my gosh, there's hot romance. Now there's cheating. Why? Because they're starving. They haven't done the work either. Just because you're on a movie screen doesn't mean you're whole and you've gone to your therapist and completed all your work. No, these people are they're still in their journey too. So that's the whole point. And that's also what always held me back. Because I would think, I still have work to do on myself. And it's taken me a while to get calm. But here's the good news. Now I've created a much smoother road for you and in a space that we can communicate. And look, I don't consider myself the authority. In fact, I want to consider this more of a collaboration where eventually we'll have more experts and more speakers. And I want you to hear from more people because I feel like the uniqueness of Gumball Love is bringing the attention to this addiction of attention and this starvation. Because a lot of times I listen to relationship conversations and I'm like, yeah, but you're talking about the symptoms and we're never really talking about the root of the problem. And I want to change that conversation because yes, it's kind of like saying we need to work out and eat right, but it's really the answer, right? Like anytime someone loses weight and they really get in shape, what are they doing? They're eating right and they're exercising consistently. No one says, hey, I took these pills for 3 months and I have this great body. But they still advertise the pills. Why? Because people want Gumball. They want the Gumball advice. They want the Gumball solution. Everybody wants the quick fix because it's the easiest. So I could go on and on about this, but I'm going to leave it here. I so appreciate your support and your consistent work that you do on yourselves because your messages to me, and I know a lot of you are thinking about joining the next academy. Oh, which by the way, I decided to skip the month of, I decided not to launch an academy in June because there is Father's Day. And there's also the 4th of July. So I'm going to start the next academy. It'll be July 14th. And also I realized after July 14th, there's really not very many holidays other than like Labor Day in September. So we're going to be able to stay on track and, we meet every Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific time. So we'll meet every week for group coaching. And then you'll have access to the e-course online. But if you just want to meet with me one-on-one, you can always do that as well. But I am just so proud of you if you're in the academy or you are working with me one-on-one. Every single client I'm working with right now is just killing it. And some of them are like, what? I'm making progress? It's like, yeah, you make progress by even deciding to work on it. That's a huge thing right there. Like, okay, I got to work on this. That's immediately you're ahead of the game. Once you commit to working on it, right then it's like admitting, okay, yes, this needs to be addressed. And then when you start going through the process and you join other like-minded people, even that is progress. And you'll just be amazed at even after 2-3 weeks, how different you're going to feel. And now the girls that have become members and they've continued to go 2, 3, 4 months later, it's like their lives are totally different. I always kind of bring that to their attention. I'm like, do you guys remember where you started? And they're all like nodding their heads and like, yeah, remember where you started. And now look at where you are. Look at what you're talking about. Look at where your life has evolved. Because once you start the process and you team up with other people and you have a sense of accountability, and even if you fall off, like, look, this is the way I operate. If you disappear for a couple weeks, then you come back and I'm like, all right, what were you doing in the 2 weeks? Were you just like laying on the couch feeling like crap? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Sometimes you need to do that. Like, I don't care. I never like, well, you better quit doing that, because it's like, I know the couch 2 week, like check out feeling a funk. I get that. It's like, we have to just stop feeling like we have to be so perfect all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just such a idea that it all should be so a certain way, and if it's not, then we're just losers. It's like, we got to let go of all of that. So that's the whole idea behind this, is to help you let go of those ideas that it should be this way or it should be that way, and I should be over him by now, and what's my problem? It's like, all that is checked at the door, and we just start from where you are, and because none of that is helpful. You know what I mean? None of that gets you anywhere. And also, I wanted to tell you, which, sorry, my dog's on my lap. I'm putting her on the ground because she's like squirming. I wanted to leave it with this, that when you do this to yourself, when you act like or put pressure on yourself that you should be further along and you're not, you know what actually makes you feel worse about yourself? You actually make the process longer by beating yourself up. When you say the things like, I know I should be over him, I don't know what my problem is. No. Why should you be over him? I tell all my clients, well, if you were a sociopath, you would be over him really fast. And they just stare at me like, what? Like, well, yeah, if you had no emotions and you were just, basically like on the borderline of a serial killer, then this would be super easy. Oh, you mean you're like a human and you have like real, like you have a heart and you're, like, oh, I guess like you actually really cared. Oh, well then guess what? It's a process. It's so weird. This is what we do to ourselves when we don't get help. We act like, or we assume, or we make all these, we put all these pressures on ourselves. And then when we put the pressure on ourselves and we don't meet up to that standard, then we push ourselves further down. So if you were feeling like you were in a funk because you can't get over him, and then you beat yourself up in there by being like, why are you still in this funk? I can't believe you're still over him. And then you look at his Instagram and he looks like he's frolicking through the fields, kicking his heels together, and he's with some other new chick. And you're like, see, look, why am I just sitting here on my couch when the reality is they took one good photo and they were like in a fight 5 minutes later, but we create all of these illusions of where we should be. We beat ourselves up and it just keeps us down. It keeps you down. So if you take nothing away from this podcast other than you cannot beat yourself while you're down. You have to go, okay, and I just want you to say this to yourself. Although I'm not over him, I have not broken up with him. I have not left him yet. I know that I should, but I haven't done it yet. It is okay. Because you're listening to this podcast. They've been listening to this kind of a podcast. It's like people that listen to this podcast are so much further along in the process because they're ready for change. If you can stand me by this point, you're way ahead. A lot of people will say, Melissa, I could not deal with you. I couldn't listen to your podcast. It was too I wasn't ready. It was like too much truth and I couldn't handle it. But they come back and then they become clients because I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm not going to give you gumballs. I'm going to give it to you straight. And you will know that when you're really ready, that Melissa's where you come and where we really do the work. And we have fun and we keep it interesting because I'll tell you what, here's the fun side. Once you really connect to who you are in your life and you start becoming whole, and that urgency goes away, you're like, hey, this is pretty freaking great. Let's just talk about that for 30 seconds. How great. Like, I look around at my life and I'm like, man, if I never got married, I would be totally fine. Like, I live where I want to live. I do what I want to do. I'm ballroom dancing. I am living in an amazing apartment in New York City. I have my dog. I have a ginormous family and cousins and my sister and my mom and a huge support system. My dad, like I'm getting ready to go back to Nebraska for vacation, and it's just going to be nothing but nonstop meetings of smiles and laughter with people that I love, my cousins. I'm getting a little choked up because my grandpa is very sick, which I'd not planned on him being sick coming back, but now, I don't know what's going to happen, but it could be his final days on this earth. And so it's like, that's what's important. That's the stuff that matters, like family and friends. And when you figure out what you're supposed to do and you make an impact in people's lives, and that's why I started with, like, I'm seeing real transformations in people. Like when I watch you transform and you come to me feeling like the flailing duck and I send you off a calm swan, I'm sorry, it's better than any first date. It is. For me, it's like, you know what? I can just go and turn off the light in my desk and go sit on my couch and just feel like, wow, I feel so honored to do it. This is my reason for being here. And when you find your reason for being here and you connect with God and you feel his hand on you executing that purpose, let me tell you what, there is no other feeling like it. And so when the idea of finding your significant other comes up, it's like, yeah, when that person comes in, great. But when I have that system in place where I'm taking women and turning that swan-like experience, the person that comes into my life has to honor you. They have to come in and see that this is so important. The work I'm doing is so important that there's going to be no guy that's going to come in and be like, well, I just can't deal with the fact that you're doing relationship stuff. Get out. It's like, no, that will never be the case. Some people say, Melissa, does what you do offend certain men? I'm like, oh, I'm sure it does. But it's not going to offend the right one. But there's never going to be some, like we say, some dirt. Well, I just don't know if I could handle. Yeah, okay, you don't know if you can handle, then bye-bye. That's it. I mean, there's just nothing I am willing to do. There is no guy I'm willing to sacrifice it for. Zero. Leonardo DiCaprio could be like, I will date you and marry you, but you have to give up Gumball love. I'd be like, Leo, peace out. I don't care. It's like, this is what I'm called to do. This is where I'm supposed to be. And it becomes more and more solidified and steadfast every single day. And I have to do things that remind me of this a lot. Like I have to make sure I stay on course. And that's a whole nother podcast, because I don't just walk around and glitter falls from the sky and I'm able to just stay. No, it takes work. I have moments where there are moments of doubt. There are tears. There are frustrations. There are it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. There's just so many things, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? I want you to know that it's not also perfect, but I now have the connection and I now understand that your relationship status, it's so insignificant when we're just the idea of just pursuing relationships, to just devote time to just be out there dating, just to be dating, when we're not really be focused on, if you haven't gone through the process of making sure that you're whole, if you haven't done the work on yourself, to go out there and just focus on dating and really do nothing else is so wasteful, because your purpose is so important. And that's what I want you to find more than anything, because once you do that work, once you follow that path, then you'll know the right person. Here's the other thing too. Like, I will know who that is. As soon as he comes into my life, I believe that the right person will then fully complement what you're doing. When I looked at Rachel Luna on stage with her husband, and she has had some struggles with her husband, she's been very public about that. But man, like the team, I would be like, wow, she is just, look at what she's saying on stage, and her husband's in the room, her kids are in the room, but she is free. She is free to move about the cabin because she has done the work. And now she is able to fulfill her dream, and she has the right partner that's going to ride that with her. And he sees the impact that she's making, and the team has gelled. It's there. It's solid. And to me, that's when you're going to know, okay, this is my team member. So for those of us, some women were way early in their growth process, and maybe you are too, and you'll meet a guy. And here's the thing. If you meet a guy and you have a lot of work to do, but you guys are willing to stick together, because he's not a gumball guy, you're not a gumball girl, then you will know, okay, this is the work I do in therapy. This is not the work I expect him to help me through. So right then, you have like, if I knew what I know now, but I went back in time, I would say to whoever I was dating, I'm working through this stuff, family stuff, past stuff, and I don't want to put that burden on you, but I'm just really going through some stuff. And you can explain it. It's not like you can't talk to them about it, but you know what I'm saying? You can't expect them to work. It's like going to somebody and saying, I really want to get fit. And they're not a personal trainer, but you kind of keep asking them fitness questions. And they're like, you're like, I just really feel like I'm like, my knees hurt during the lunge. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. They'll say stuff, and you'll be like, come on, like, what do you think it is? And they're like, I don't know. Maybe like your form is wrong. Yeah, maybe it is my form. I'm doing it like this, but they don't know what right form is. They don't know that your knee isn't supposed to go over your ankle. So they're like, I don't know. Or past your knees way over your toes. But that person doesn't know. And you're like, oh my gosh, this hurts so bad. Why does this hurt? Come on, help me. And they're like, I don't know. That's how frustrating it is when we bring our problems into a relationship, that guy does not know how to help you. However, you might not have to lose that guy if you know to go, you know what? I learned from my trainer that I have to sit straight up and I can't let my knee extend over my toes. That's what was causing the pain. Oh, okay. So then when he sees you working out, he can say, hey, babe, your knee's over your toe again. Oh, thanks. See, like, having a little bit of expert advice in there, you did the work on your own, and then you shared what you learned. That's how you grow together. But you can't lean on it. They can't be your trainer. They can't be your therapist. They can't be your spiritual advisor. Like, all of that stuff we cannot put on our significant others. So we have to know where we do that work on our own, and then we have to know where we come together as a team. And then everything is so much lighter in the relationship, because we know what we need to look to our partner for, how we can grow together, how we can be together. And those are the things that I feel so fortunate to learn as a single person, because you go into the next relationship with such an advantage. Then you're not looking to them to do all this stuff for you. Do you hear me? I intended on this being a 10-minute podcast. I'm looking at it's 1 hour. So Dana, who does a beautiful job of editing my podcasts, she's like, oh my gosh, dude, what are you doing to me? This is supposed to be 10 minutes. But, if I think about pre-planning my podcasts, I just then I'm looking at notes, and I just do so much better when I have the main idea in my head, and then none of this would ever come to me. I do my best creativity when I'm just speaking it out. So I thank you for hanging with me. I hope this was helpful. I have no idea what I'm going to name this podcast, because there's so many topics, but I really believe that we have to trust the process. And maybe that will be, we have to trust the process, that your healing does not come right after the breakup, and that you have to give yourself the grace and the time to heal. And don't go to people that don't understand that process. Also, Don't go to friends and ask them to be your therapist. Get the help you need. Join the academy. Book your appointment with your therapist, whatever you have to do. That way, when you talk to your friend, you can say, hey, you know what? I joined this academy. It's really helping me get over, Mike. And what I learned is that X, Y, Z. And she can be like, oh, yeah, that is really interesting. So I'm really working through it, and it's helping me. We meet every week, and I meet with this coach. And yeah, I'm getting, you know what I mean? It's like, that's how you're going to sound versus like, I don't know, like he called again and he says all this stuff and I want to believe him, but I'm just exhausted. Like, you're exhausted when you're at that point and you're like, I'm exhausted. I don't even know what to do. Why am I so tired? Like, I can help you. And in this group, we can help you make all of those foggy thoughts clear so that you're not just by yourself. So the moral of the story is this is a process. Don't beat yourself up and don't do it alone, because getting over heartbreak is no freaking joke. And sometimes it can take a long time to do it. You might be the kind of person, I'm that kind of person. When I fall in love with somebody, it can take me a really long time to let that go. And it's just how I am. So, it is what it is. And I would love to be able to say, yeah, I get over it in 6 months, but it's not that way for me. That stuff stays with me for a long time. So whatever your process is, you honor that. You own it. And I want you to feel okay about it, because once you do that, you liberate yourself, you take the chains off, and then you're able to breathe and be like, okay, now let's really work on this without feeling pressure. And if you go back to him for another month and you join the academy and you completely fall off, there's a reason. So just come back in when you're ready again. You can come in when you're still in the mess. I encourage you to do it. Be like, hey, he's in the next room and I'm still in here, but this is what's happening. You're so much better off being like, hey, I'm still with the married guy and he's coming over this weekend and these are my thoughts. Like, I have clients that are doing that right now, but they're able to see it so much more clearly when they can just be honest with themselves and they're not being judged. When you're not being judged and then you can talk through it and really speak your mind, that's so freaking powerful. But when we feel like we have to be like, yeah, I know I was doing that thing and it was really bad and I get that now and I've changed my ways. You know how we try to convince ourselves like, yeah, now I'm good. Before I know I was bad. And then you have the friend that's like, yeah, it is bad. It's like, oh, shut up. Like they're probably, it's like, oh, so you're perfect. I hate people like that. It's like, don't judge them. It's so hard. Like it's so hard to admit those things. And then you have that friend that's like frowning while you're doing it. It's like, it's so difficult when you're trying to become a better person, but you still feel like you're in Schmuckville. It's like you need that liberty and that freedom to allow yourself to come as you are and work through the process at your own pace. So, all right, I've gone way over. Maybe I haven't gone way over. It's my podcast. It's my rules. But I do have a goal to do short podcasts at some point. We'll see if it really happens. But thank you if you've hung in this long. I love you so much. I hope you are doing great. I hope this helps you. Send me a message. Let me know how you're doing. And if you need more information about the academy, go to gumballlove.com. It's Gumball and then love. So it's 3 L's in a row, gumballandlove.com. You can click on academy. If you want one-on-one coaching, you can click on one-on-one. And you can join our private Facebook group, which is facebook.com/coach Melissa Ledger. And at the very top of my Facebook business page, there is a link to the private Facebook group. You can join there. And then if you want to join the academy, there is an additional private Facebook group that's a much smaller group where we do the intense work and we have the more where you feel like you can be much more open with your conversations. So tons of resources are here for you. So please don't be afraid to reach out, because this is the place where it's a judgment-free zone. I don't care how hot of a mess you think you are. Guarantee I've probably been a hotter mess in my past. I've been through a lot. So sometimes when you're some people are scared to tell me their story. And I'm like, oh, dude, if you only knew like me 20 years ago, 15 years ago, like it's been a tough road, but I have chosen to make a message out of my mess and unravel it all and create smooth paved roads for you to glide on, or smooth waters for you to glide through like a beautiful swan that you are meant to be calm, to be satisfied, to build the life that you've always dreamt of building, and then to welcome the healthy relationships and attract a whole different lifestyle, so that when you meet your significant other, it's so obvious, it's so clear, it's such a right fit because you've done all the work. And now you won't sit in fear. You won't wonder. You won't be worried if he's going to walk away, because you will know you have met your true match and your true teammate and your true partner, and everything will be easy. All my clients that meet their significant other are like, Melissa, it's everything you said it would be. It's easy. It flows. I don't worry if he's going to text me. I don't worry about our next date. It's just like magic. So with that, I will leave you here. I hope you have an amazing week. And if you are spending time with your dad or your grandpa, have an amazing Father's Day weekend. Enjoy this time. Enjoy your summer. Just take it all in. Just really channel that gratitude. Find everything you can be grateful for. Know that this is not where it's going to end, that there are greater things to come, but there's so much to be thankful for right in this moment. All right, until next time, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.